White Sox fans, welcome into Sunday Funday with Sox on Tap. It's Johnny Nani here alongside my guy, NWI Steve. How you doing this evening?
I am not well, Jonathan. This baseball team is really making me question a lot of my life choices and how we got to this point here and where we go from here.
Right, yeah. It's rough, 11-game losing streak. It's swept again for another series here, this time up in Milwaukee. So we'll get into that. A little bit of drama on the field going on. A lot of transactions, too, that took place in between the last time we were on these airwaves and today. And we've got a little more Pedro, our weekly Pedro clownery segment. That'll be fun. That's always a good time here at Sox on Tap. A bit on John Schriffen and a lengthy injury report. And then we'll take a look at the Cubs series in this episode of Sox on Tap. Appreciate everyone being along for the ride. Make sure you're subscribed over on YouTube at On Tap Sportsnet there. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Give us a follow on the socials at Sox on Tap and at On Tap Sportsnet. And check out ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports, literature, and podcasting needs. All right, Steve, losing streaks up to 11, like I'd mentioned. Another series sweep here, losing the Milwaukee Brewers. Close in most of these games at certain times, and then gets out of hand one way or another. Hit parade on Friday, making mistakes, costly mistakes on Saturday and Sunday. Pitching overall, outside of Garrett Crochet, just not getting the job done when needed. Steve, your takeaways from this weekend series in Milwaukee?
Well, bad teams will find different ways to lose baseball games on a consistent basis, as you mentioned there. Sometimes it's pitching faltering. Other times it's bad defense or base running. Other times it's a lack of offense. This team has all of the above, and we really saw kind of a lot of it over the course of this weekend here. And, running that losing streak up to 11, I believe this is the longest losing streak that the franchise has had since 1956. So it's not really something that you want to be a part of. Anytime you got to go all the way back to when the person that is supposedly my father was barely walking at the time to find a streak of this length. That's not really a good scene for anybody involved here. And it's just that they don't do anything well. It's not even like the classic meme that we used to see that would have the dials. Okay, if pitching is good, then the defense goes bad. It's always something. And oftentimes it's a collection of different things that are leading to this team losing baseball games.
We knew coming into this season that this team wasn't going to be good. I don't know if we expect it to be this bad in terms of, 15:45 here as we sit on June 2nd, but I think what frustrates me most is when they do it to themselves. And I gotta, it's hard to go and put onus on one player, but honest to God, Steve, I really just want to take it all out on Zach Remillard right now, both in Saturday's game and Sunday's game. Crucial errors at times, both in the field and on the base paths that cost this team potential rally situation today and getting out of a big situation that could have prevented runs on Saturday. So, like I said, it is a team game. You had mentioned that there are several aspects of this team that are not firing there. But when you get a guy that's, career minor leaguer, just along here as a place filler, right, until we can get the Colson Montgomerys and Jacob Gonzalez's of the world, right? Seeing that, I don't know, that just really grinds my gears to use a Pedro Grifol line there.
It is extremely frustrating. And look, Zach Remillard, a guy that is in some ways a story of perseverance. Guy spent, I think it was 6 years in the minor leagues before he got his call up to the White Sox and got to live his major league dream here. But it's obvious that this is just not a major league player. And, we see mistakes consistently, like I said, in all aspects of the game, unfortunately. And it's an indictment in a lot of ways on Chris Getz and some of the things that were done with this team over the course of the winter, that we are in a position to have to see Zach Remillard be up here consistently and getting playing time, making pivotal mistakes that are ultimately playing key roles in this team losing baseball games on an almost nightly basis at this point here. And you have to wonder, how much longer can this really go on for? And I'm not sitting here clamoring for Colson Montgomery to come up. I know he's been swinging the bat better of late, but there's got to be some other option out there. There's got to be something on the waiver wire that you can do. Somebody that is an actual major league player.
Wow, think about a guy we traded earlier in the season, Jose Rodriguez, your boy, right? I know it's still too soon on that for you, Steve, but you just wonder, like the hypothetical. Well, if he made those mistakes, it'd be like, well, he's a rookie and it's a young player figuring it out. We got to see what we have in him. I think what you'd said though about Chris Getz that is probably the biggest takeaway from this being in this position. And I know he's back up now, but like Lenin Sosa not even being able to just be serviceable in a role like that, to be trusted consistently is, very frustrating to watch from a roster composition standpoint.
Yeah, and Lenin Sosa is obviously a guy that certain segments of the fan base on Twitter.com were very much enamored with. If you go back a couple of years at this point, and he had shown some positive growth across the minor leagues, but it's very clear and very evident at this juncture that he's really nothing more than a quad A player, unfortunately. And the fact that this team can't develop role players to be able to step into these positions here when you have injuries come up and you're stuck with, the Zach Remillars of the world, the, 6-year minor league journeyman. So, well, not even necessarily a journeyman because he's been in the Sox organization the entire time, but this is just another glaring indictment on the player development process that this organization has had, which, by the way, Chris Getz used to oversee.
Yep. Hashtag facts only, Steve. You always deliver hashtag facts only on the show. So, like I said, it's just frustrating. Well, let's talk about a few specific incidents from this weekend. First, a positive. We're not trying to sugarcoat anything in here, but we got another solid outing from Garrett Crochet. It's nice seeing him continue this stretch that he's been on. I know the scoreless inning streak did come to an end there, right? But overall, he's still dealing, which is a positive sign because I feel like, after like the first 3 starts were great. And then there was that kind of, lull in the middle. And we thought, oh, shit, it's a dead arm period coming on already for a guy that, was, bullpen all of his previous outings in his career. And then now making a transition to start. He's looking strong. And that's my biggest takeaway from it. What do you see?
Yeah. No, he has been very strong here over the course of the last month. Really getting back to what we saw early on in the season here, just filling the strike zone consistently, working ahead in counts. His usage of the cutter is really his primary secondary offering, more so than the slider of late. And, you see him going in there trying to work in changeups for a 4th pitch to give the hitters just something else in the back of their mind, plant another seed of doubt for them. But that fastball cutter combination has been really devastating, especially on right-handed hitters there, having that cutter boring in on their hands. And you have to feel really good about what we've seen from Garrett Crochet. Now, look, another dead arm period could very well come on. Most starting pitchers have a couple of them during the course of the season. And when you talk about a guy transitioning into the starting rotation for the first time, that is something to be expected. I come back to 2012 when Chris Sale made his transition to the starting rotation. There was a start in June in Arlington at the old ballpark against the Texas Rangers when Chris Sale didn't see a fastball above 90 miles an hour. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that this is something that could happen to Garrett Crochet again here. So you just have to kind of continue to monitor this. And it is going to be fascinating to see as we get more into the summer months, how the Sox go about maybe rearranging the rotation to try to maybe build in an extra off day, maybe skip him a time through the rotation, just try to do some things with the rotation and with the scheduling here to maybe take a little bit of burden off of Garrett Crochet at this point. But, like you said, for the last month, it's been really smooth sailing for him.
Yeah, and they'll also have the All-Star break to be able to, as a built-in sort of, break where everyone's off. But if they line up his starts correctly in there, you could potentially give him an even longer rest period during that. Well, got to savor these while we can because these few bright spots that we could go and pick up, talk about. Unfortunately, you know what? I felt really bad seeing the shot of him in the dugout after the relief crew allowed the tying runs to cross the plate. I believe that was in the 7th inning of Saturday's game. I felt bad because they just showed it, and he's not going to sit there and bitch and moan on camera and say it, but you could tell, you could see in his eyes, he's frustrated. And I know pitcher wins, losses aren't the biggest thing in the world, but he was in line for the win at that time. So it's, it just sucks to see a solid effort go by the wayside because of the White Sox doing White Sox things in the latter innings of that ball game. Only other thing from Saturday, my God, you can't even get the guy to third base in the extra innings. You're gifted a runner, a ghost runner. You're gifted it. And we can't even get the guy over. You got Zach Rummelard doing his worst bunt attempt I've ever seen. It's just pathetic. That kind of shit's pathetic. And then Milwaukee makes it look easy, even against someone like Michael Kopech. Frustrating on that end.
Well, that just goes to show the deficiencies of this team from an offensive standpoint. When you're sitting there, you've already got a man in scoring position, and you're having to try to give away an out to move a guy 90 feet when that shouldn't be happening. The number of sacrifice bunt attempts that are happening in the 10th inning because of the ghost runner now has drastically decreased this year, according to some of the data that I saw. And to think that this team is just still kind of in that position where they don't have enough confidence that they can move a guy 180 feet, that they got to give away one of the three precious outs that they are guaranteed to have in that inning, and they can't even do that correctly. It's just nauseating to watch.
Make me sick. All right, let's move on to Sunday, Steve. This is where the fireworks happened. It was a 6-3 loss. Another, kind of Nick Nastrini. I'm just not impressed so far. The command's not there. We're running out of runs again on the base paths. Zach Rumlar getting gunned down at third base, right, in this one, and then not being able to execute after that, even with a couple of hits interspersed there. But you got the Tommy Pham incident. It was a run that we ran out of there. Terrible send. It was a shallow fly ball left field. Then a little bit, his commentary, as he put it in his own words, he was out by a fucking mile, right? And we'll get into some of his comments in a bit. But that little dust up with William Contreras. Not shocked that he got an earful from him, because we know his dipshit older brother and his antics. I'm sure that runs in the family there. I'm not shocked at all. And I loved how Tommy Pham described it. The tough guy who raw shit. That's exactly what happened, but it was just a little bit of verbal jawing. There was no actual confrontation, no physical event of shoving. Guys barely even got out onto the field. So if you listen to the broadcast, you probably wouldn't pick that up if you were just listening. But if you saw it with your eyes, that's what happened. We'll get into Schriffen stuff later too. But thoughts on this whole situation here was actually, in my mind, a little bit refreshing. Just hear Tommy Pham blow off some steam after the game on that.
Yeah, so a couple things here. There was a lane for Thomas Pham to slide into the plate. And I think it was because I saw some commentary on twitter.com, people saying, like, I don't know what he's upset about. And it's obvious that he was upset about whatever it is that Contreras had said to him. Because you do see that replay. There is a clear lane that he had to slide towards home plate there. But at the end of the day, Thomas Pham is not the guy to fuck with. We've been talking about this all season long. He is not here for your bullshit. And that was evident when the reporters, got to his locker in the clubhouse after the game here. And I mean, you do love to see the fire and the passion from a guy like him. That's a veteran guy that has been on successful teams, knows what it means to be a long-term successful major league player. Big part of the reason why I've wanted to see him in a White Sox uniform for so long, and it sucks that it is going to be wasted during this pathetic season right here. But I loved his quote in the offseason. There's a reason why I do all kinds of fighting, because I'm here to fuck somebody up.
Yeah, prepared to fuck someone up. Yeah, that was a great soundbite. Like I said, I think it just kind of obviously what sparked it was talking about that incident that occurred at the plate and the jawing back and forth with Contreras. But in the same breath, I think it was also a buildup of frustration, because being around a losing culture like that just sucks. And it sucks the life out of you, and you're going to get pissed off. So it was nice to hear Tommy Pham get pissed off. And I feel like the fan base so much appreciated it, because it was also like us venting in a way. He was doing it for us, I should say.
Yeah, definitely. And again, this is a guy that's been around the league for a long time. He's had success. He's been on good teams. So he knows what a clubhouse and what a winning culture is supposed to look like. Maybe one of the things that he is trying to do is trying to instill some of that in here. Unfortunately, you know, not many of the guys that are in that clubhouse right now will theoretically be wearing a White Sox uniform the next time they could theoretically be a contending team again. You would love to see him, maybe be around when, a guy like a Colson Montgomery or an Edgar Carroll or any guys like that down in the minor leagues who are relevant to this team's future. I just don't know that he's going to get that opportunity, unfortunately. But he's really been a breath of fresh air to come in here and just kind of tell it like it is. And again, just not put up with the bullshit.
Yeah, I think we talked about it in prior episodes of Sox on Tap, but it's like, you talk about a true like professional, like he's no nonsense. It's all business when Tommy Pham shows up to the ballpark. And while there are other guys, I think I had mentioned Paul DeYoung in this breath, he's a veteran guy. He's been around. He's taken his lumps. So he can offer some, but he doesn't offer the same level of leadership and just doesn't present it the same way, right, as someone like Tommy Pham does. So that was kind of the extent of that incident. We can we'll save some of the Schriffen stuff for later because there's a couple of them. Let's talk a little bit of transactions because new faces in here. Juanin Sosa recalled with Brian Ramos heading down, and as we get into our Pedro weekly clownery here, Brian Ramos didn't get demoted to AAA Charlotte. It was actually a promotion by his logic, Steve. What do you make of that?
That is really some interesting circular logic to use. I mean, I'm sure Brian Ramos is definitely looking at it as a promotion when he looks at his pay stubs. Because even if you're up here for a couple of weeks, you're still making the major league minimum. And then all of a sudden you go back down to Charlotte and that changes. So I'm sure he's definitely looking at it as a promotion. Just this fucking bozo. It's something new every week with him or every other day. I mean, the fact that we're going to have to tolerate this, for another 3 full months at this point, it's irritating to put it mildly. I try my best to not listen to anything he says, but then obviously, you scroll, you see stuff come across the timeline there, and it's really hard to avoid it. But there is just no value to anything that ever comes out of his mouth. The verbal diarrhea at this point has just gotten to be too much. It's just over the top.
As we posted the clip over at Sox on Tap from Friday when we had said all this, I think the perfect line to summarize this is from True Detective season 1. And I just want you to stop saying odd shit. That's, Woody Harrelson talking to McConaughey in that show. That's exactly, I think, how all White Sox fans feel towards Grifol when you see just like you'd said, just the verbal diarrhea. That really is the best term to describe it there. But we're going to get more of it. All right, I will say just one other thing. The reason we can have these weekly, Pedro clownery things, we get these. While, yes, it is irritating and frustrating from a management of a baseball team standpoint, we also understand that this is a lost season. There was never any expectations to compete in all of this, and he's going to hang on. We know the reality of the situation. They're going to hang on to him to avoid, cutting costs, or excuse me, to avoid, paying him without being the manager, right? At least we can find some humor in this. It's just so ridiculous and over the top and, flawed logic, whatever it may be. And like you said, it is frustrating, but at this point you can't help but laugh at some of this shit. So at least he gives us memes. I was talking to a buddy on Saturday and I had said, Robin Ventura wasn't a great manager, great player, but not a great manager, but he was very vanilla, right? There wasn't really much like off the wall, like, sort of like meme joke stuff. And now in the internet age here, really coming on, we can have a field day with the Pedro Grifol clownery. So we've done it plenty of times starting last year with your Mr. Clean, and we got the edit up there. We've got the Just Flush It GIF that we use. So, like I said, find a little humor where we can in here. Let's talk some more transactions, Steve. Andrew Benintendi is on the IL with Benintendinitis. In his left Achilles, and Oscar Colas is back with the big league club here. They actually going to get significant playing time? I guess that's the biggest question that comes up every time Oscar Colas's name is mentioned. And can he do anything with it is also a big question.
I think it would make sense to give him some run and see what they can do here. And I think especially with it, and I know we're going to kind of get to this in a second here with Andrew Vaughn and his situation, maybe allowing Gavin Sheets to play actual first base, actually putting a first baseman in at first base. That's going to be a bold strategy there. But, I think they need to give Colas a little bit of run here. He obviously didn't have a very long leash a year ago. The results were not good. He obviously was not a fan favorite of Mr. Clean. Find out if there is anything there. Find out if anything has changed. We've seen some quotes from Mr. Clean talking about, the player development staff is just raving about some of the improvements that he's made. The numbers in Charlotte don't really bear that out, but, I'd say just put him out there and see, and let's figure this out once and for all. I mean, it's kind of getting to a point where he's just persona non grata within the organization that you might as well just trade him at this point. So get him out there, see if there's anything there at all. If not, then cut bait. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a similar situation with Lenyn Sosa, right? Kind of feels like should be a last gasp, so to say, on this front. Only thing I'm not doing the minor league stuff. I'm not watching Charlotte Knights, Birmingham Barons games consistently. We're past that point. This isn't 2016, 17 anymore, right? I don't know. Like you said, the adjustments that were made, whatever. Like you said, the stats don't really bear it out. And the plate approach is just still not good. The check swing, like today, the willingness to want to chase those pitches, that's got to improve. Number one, for me, that's what I will be watching from him overall. And unfortunately, I would love to be proven wrong, but I just don't have any faith that he's actually made meaningful adjustments. Maybe a few minor tweaks here and there, but he's just not a disciplined hitter. And that's going to lead to a lot of strikeouts here. And that's going to tank numbers up here. And he's going to look bad. Even if he does get on like a little bit of a stretch where he has a few hits and whatever, it's going to be weighed down by those periods of being over aggressive and basically just not having a sound professional approach at the plate.
That's very much the White Sox way, unfortunately. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that you mentioned there. Again, just looking at the numbers, like you, I have not been watching. I have not watched a single inning of minor league baseball all season here. My extent of following the minor league teams this season has been whenever I see a quote from a friend of the show, Matthew Crawford, saying promote.
Yeah.
But just going to Fangraphs, looking at the numbers there's nothing tangible that I see looking at the data. Would love to be proven wrong. Like you, that would be a welcome sign, but I'm just skeptical and I need to see it in order to believe it.
Yeah. All right. Also on the injury front, Vaughn, kind of day-to-day here, sprained left ring finger when he was sliding into third base against the Blue Jays on Wednesday. They said it was 3 to 5 days with Saturday being the third day. So off again, he didn't play again today, and then he got an off day Monday. So possible that he could come back on Tuesday against the Cubes. But once again, with Pedro Grifol, like you had said, you just try to avoid it for the most part. I just don't believe it anymore, what he says, because how many times have we heard about a guy, oh, well, it's just a day-to-day thing and we're not going to do that. And then a few days go by, they place him on the IL, do the retroactive thing, but you basically wasted a roster spot for 3-4 days. That's could very well be the case, or he could come back Tuesday. I don't know what the situation is. Either way, he's got to hope for a massive resurgence when he comes back into the lineup, Steve. It's so sad when you go and look at Fangraphs and WAR, and then you sort by the lowest to highest, and Benintendi's the worst qualified. Vaughn's like third, fourth worst, somewhere around there. I think our guy Sox Insane wrote a good piece talking about a focus on pull side could help him at least get back to some level of respectability. And he did a double in that Wednesday game against the Blue Jays. And then, of course, after he does that, ball gets away from Kirk, slides in and sprains the finger. So, didn't see if that same approach got to be continued, but he really needs to step it up, or otherwise he's going to be non-tendered, Steve. That's just the facts only of the situation.
Yeah, that is pretty much where we're at. That's something that I know we've been talking about on this show for a little while now. And honestly, if it were me, given the situation with Luis Robert Jr. potentially coming back on Tuesday, I would send Andrew Vaughn to Charlotte. He's got options. We literally just saw what the Tigers did about an hour ago with former number one
Mr.
overall pick.
Right?
Yeah. If another team can send down a top overall pick in the draft because he's not performing at the major league level, why can't the Sox do this with Andrew Vaughn? We can talk about the injury with the finger all we want. The performance has been shit. There is no justification for him having a major league roster spot at this point. Anthony's baby boy, Gavin, has been far more productive than him this year. Let him play his natural position at first base when Luis Robert Jr. gets back. Move Thomas Pham over to right field, and then you can have Colas and give him an opportunity there in left field until Noodle Boy comes back.
Yeah, I agree. That would be the competent thing to do, especially when you look at it. Gavin Sheets was in a lull for a bit there in mid-May, I would say. But I think this past weekend was a nice little resurgence for him. Hit his first career home run off of a lefty. I believe he had a double in there as well. So it's not like Gavin Sheets is, really a dredge there. Obviously, the production overall is better than Vaughn. But basically, the setting is all there. All the pieces are in place. Will they actually pull the trigger? I have no faith in it. Don't think so.
And would it be very White Sox to do the right thing, as we have seen?
The obviously right thing. Yeah. As you like to say.
Yeah. To be determined.
We'll see. Keep an eye over at ontapsportsnet.com and at Sox on Tap on the X machine for an update. Like you mentioned in that breath, Luis Robert, possibility of returning Tuesday. I believe he DH today down in Charlotte. Mondays are off days in the minor leagues. So timeline's panning out that way. That'd be nice to have Mr. 88 patrolling center field again. Okay, let's talk John Schriffen. Made his way onto the awful announcing page a couple of times more this weekend. And first was a situation with we're catching teams at bad times, right? He set himself up for that one. There's no defending that one. He walked right into it. And you know what I will say is I think Steve Stone, it came off of he was, correcting him, and he was, but the chuckle before it, that's how I would, want it to be handled in the booth. So I think the sequence overall was, Schriffen's comment was what it was. Stone's response was fine, in my opinion, and clarified it for the fans listening. But this is the kind of stuff that is going to make his detractors even more vocal and his defenders hard to be able to defend this.
Yeah, there's really not much of a defense for this. Honestly, you could talk all you want about catching teams at the wrong time when they're in the midst of a hot streak. But the fact of the matter is the Sox are the team that typically is getting other teams right. Just look at what happened with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, the get right team. Yep.
The Sox are that team that when opposing fans look on the schedule and say, oh, we've got 3 games coming off the White Sox, we can chalk up 3 wins right there. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah. There's just some delivery. It could be better on this. I understand the points, but say you have some data. It's there. Okay, well, if you really want to talk about when, because I think it'd be more relevant and stick to his point if he was talking about getting teams, what happened before they played us. And okay, well, they are 8-2 in their last 10. If you use specific examples like that, it softens the blow of that impact. Because guess what? There are certain instances of that. Sometimes we have played some teams that are coming in off of hot stretches. He's not wrong about that, but the collection of issues needs to be addressed in the same breath. Thankfully, Stone was there to be able to throw him a little life fest in that scenario. All right, then the other one that happened with that Tommy Pham incident that we mentioned earlier in the show. It was like he was on the team. That's basically the takeaway from those comments. We won't take that, right? We won't take that. That's just another one that's hard to defend. And I the infliction that comes into his voice in a big moment, I understand wanting to, make things exciting and all of that. And maybe it's something that he can't change because it's just how he talks, but it comes off as very try-hardish and then in turn a little bit cringe on that front. I don't know about you. That's what I garner from some of those situations.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I've seen some commentary on twatter.com, some people trying to say, oh, that's, had a little bit of Hawk in him. Well, to me, there's a difference there. Hawk was a guy that played at the major league level. Hawk spent a long time in the booth, and somebody being an ex-player, I mean, there is a little bit of gravitas with that. Schriffen doesn't have that. We've got to be honest with ourselves, and it really does come off very fanboyish, for lack of a better term there. And like you said, I mean, it does give a lot of fuel to his detractors that are out there. The first time I heard it, I just kind of, that's just not a good sequence there, John.
Yeah.
You really need to dial that back.
So, you know what, the thing is, we had talked about this back when the whole first incident started regarding Schriffen, right? There were a couple of ones with the, for all the haters with the Benintendi home run against the Rays. And then there was the radio losers, spats that we had covered. But one thing that we said we were going to do is evaluate throughout the season, because you got to remember, it still is his first year. So I think there are improvements that he can make. And then while the detractors will always point out the clips that will end up going viral and these examples that we're talking about, and he's not free from criticism on those. His excitement has also made a few moments more exciting. When Dominic Fletcher made that home run robbery, I was very excited because John Schriffen was excited, just like I was, like I am in my living room. And that's one of the things we loved about Hawk, right? Felt like he was a fan, like along with you, and he was, the voice for it. So some of those moments have been good, and I've liked his excitement in those, but obviously not all the time, and he's got to pick and choose his moments there. But I just wanted to point that out, because it's not all just dump on John Schriffen day here at Sox on Tap. There's still things that are good and bad, and I feel like we could point those out. You don't have to be totally on one side of the spectrum or the other.
Yeah, I think you look across the league, there's a lot of play-by-play voices now that have just gotten very vanilla. There's not a lot of guys like Hawk. There's not a lot of guys, like Bob Uecker anymore, kind of coming in to the game now. It's just a lot of generic vanilla guys coming in from Syracuse, or I think Missouri might be one of the other ones that has a lot of the broadcasting programs there. But there's just not anything that stands out with a lot of this newer crop of play-by-play guys. And Schriffen is bringing a level of excitement. I think it's a matter of needing to just kind of understand situations a little bit better, and when it's really appropriate to have that. The play by Dominic Fletcher today was a perfect circumstance, because that kept this game within reach and did give the Sox an opportunity to ultimately come back and win a baseball game. Obviously, they didn't do that, but if that ball gets over the fence right there, kind of puts that game away a little bit earlier there, and all of a sudden,
that would have been a 3-run shot. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So now all of a sudden you're looking at a 7-3 game, and we all know asking the Sox to score 4 runs to tie it with 6 outs to go, that's a very risky proposition.
Yep, indeed. So, all right. Well, like I said, we will continue the John Schriffen discussion, both good and bad, as it unfolds throughout the season. I think it's good for fans to be able to point out both of them, because it has just gotten way too polarizing in terms of at least what I've seen on social media in certain circles, both in defenders camp and detractors camp. So we'll leave it at that for now. Revisit it when it comes up again. We gave you the rundown on the injuries earlier. We're getting more looking like a full That's So White Sox injury report here. A lot of names on here, but we had mentioned Luis Robert could potentially be back Tuesday when the Sox open up a series on the north side of town against the Cubs. Cubs are 29-31, tied for second in the NL Central, pending the result of the St. Louis Cardinals game tonight. They went 1-2 against the Reds over the weekend. They have been on a slide, Steve. We'll see them Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday will be Chris Flexen versus Shota Imanaga, and Wednesday will be Eric Fetty versus Jameson Taillon. Thoughts on Crosstown, Steve? I don't know. Some people say it's not a rivalry and this and that. You're entitled to your opinion. I have a lot of friends who are Cubs fans, and I like breaking balls back and forth with them, so I enjoy it as a friendly rivalry, and I hope I don't get shot down for that opinion, but that just is what it is. I still enjoy it as a little bit of trash talk back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously there's plenty of that to go around. I just think, for me personally, these two games aren't going to have the level of enthusiasm, just given the position that the Sox are in right now. And if they somehow manage to win a game in this 2-game set here, we're going to hear all about congratulations on your World Series,
yep.
Which that kind of is what it is. But I guess at the end of the day, when you're a team that's 15-45, the excitement level just really isn't there right now. And as you mentioned here, the Cubs, themselves have had a really rough 3-week stretch. Seems like there's a lot of people #mad online about where they're at as a team right now. And, we're seeing two clubs really struggling offensively here, since the month of May began. And so runs are really going to be at a premium. And unfortunately, the Sox are going to be running up against two of the Cube's top starting pitchers, Shota Imanaga, getting on the mound, looking to rebound from his worst start since coming over here to the north side. So it's going to be a very daunting task for a team that has struggled to score runs. But like I said, hopefully La Pantera will be back in the lineup there to at least give this team another competent major league hitter.
Yeah, that's what I'm most looking forward to in the series is a potential return of Luis Robert Jr. I hope he's, like I said, not watching these Charlotte Knights games, so I hope he is far enough along in that recovery. I did see, he hit a home run in that first game that he got there, but then when I checked it, Thursday, Friday, I think he was going hitless, piling up a few strikeouts. So get that out of the system, get back with the major league team. We just need someone that's competent. We want to watch, a star caliber player. Do you think we get win in the series, break this losing streak? Or I think it probably goes to 12. I don't have much faith against Imanaga, but I can see potentially Wednesday.
I don't feel good about either game, to be completely honest with you. Just given the way that this situation has been unfolding for the course of the last 2 weeks, you could almost see a scenario where maybe this thing is close in the 7th, 8th innings, and somebody in the bullpen makes a mistake out over the heart of the plate to, a guy like Morel and his bat just happens to run into the ball, similar to what we saw last year against Gregory Santos late in the game. And my fear is that's the type of thing that we would see happen here. I'm obviously hoping not to have to experience that, but I just don't feel confident in this team's ability to get a win on the road. So I fear that the streak is going to continue.
So, yeah, I'll bite it. I'll buy. I'll say Wednesday. Sox get a win Wednesday, finally end the losing streak. I just got to do it for my sanity. I predicted us getting swept up Milwaukee, so I hope I am right on this one here, and you're not correct. But I do think your outcome is more likely. So we'll see what happens, and we'll probably be back with you here at Sox on Tap on either Wednesday or Thursday. Probably Wednesday, because that Boston series does kick off right then after that on that Thursday night. So, Steve, hit me with the final thought, and then we got to get on out of here.
Final thought, find a way to win a baseball game, please, for the sanity of everyone collectively within this fan base. We need it. We're down real bad right now. Luis Robert Jr., feel free to hit one onto that stupid scoreboard, or do one of those stupid little, Mickey Mouse basket homers.
Yeah.
That would be nice to see happen. Just please, for the love of God, put an end to this streak. That's all I got.
Yep. Don't want to get on the historically bad. I was going to mention that in mine too. With Mickey Mouse Dimensions, they're supposed to play both ways, right? So take advantage, and maybe, fly ball can just get caught up in that wind stream and barely get out on that front. So that's all I like to see. That, and, I like the bragging rights because, like I said, I just have fun shooting the shit with friends who are Cubs fans, and it's all in good fun, but it's nice to have the upper hand in that with a win at least. So we'll see what happens. Appreciate everyone tuning in to this edition of Sox on Tap. Like I said, probably back with you Wednesday. And until next time, White Sox forever.
White Sox for life.